Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, I thought I'd do something interesting. We're about 11 months out from Wrestlemania 36. Actually about between 10 and 11 months out. So I thought, why don't I do a way too early predictions for WrestleMania 36? What I think the card will be, who I think will win. And I think it'd be an interesting test to see how much I get right, how much I get wrong. I'm going to guess that most of it I'm going to get wrong. But you never know. I might get some of it right. Jumping right into that, we're going to start off with and I'm going to format it much like they formatted this year's WrestleMania, because it seems to be their rate at a certain number. Usually they're at 14 matches as of the last two, with 3 pre-show matches. So that's how I'm going to format my show. With the beginning one on the pre-show being the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. They've seemed to have thrown this on the pre-show almost every year, so I'm going to stick it here again. This is the match where they throw everybody that isn't going to be in the card onto this. I think they're going to use this, and I think next year, I believe Bray Wyatt's going to win it. And no other reason than, as you see me go down the card, I couldn't find another place to put Bray Wyatt. And I couldn't think of what they're going to do with him between now and then. So, unfortunately, he gets slotted into the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Hopefully, he gets to do something with it, unlike the last few winners have. Now, coming off of that, like I said, it was very hard narrowing it down and trying to fit everybody onto this card that I wanted to fit. There are some people that I just couldn't get onto the card. And a couple of these you're going to see, and much like they do at regular WrestleMania, they made into multi-person matches just to put more people on. Now, this was an idea I came up with for the Women's Tag Team Championship. And I think it would be an exciting match to also show on the pre-show to help buy rates, which is what the pre-show is supposed to do. And that's for the Women's Tag Team Championship. And the Iconics, who will be champion, I don't think they're going to hold it through till then, but I think they'll pick it up again by then, are going to defend against competitors from SmackDown, a team from SmackDown, a team from Raw, and a team from NXT, since they can go between all 3 shows. The team from SmackDown, I'm going to go with the Sky Pirates, Io Shirai, and Kairi Sane. I know that Kairi's currently turned to Asuka, but I think that'll evolve, and we'll get the Sky Pirates at this point, because I think Asuka will go into something else you'll see later. Versus the Raw team of Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax, the on-again, off-again best friends. Again, I think it's a matter of finding a place to use both of these women and wanting them both to be on the card. And then the team representing NXT, I have Candice LeRae and Casey Canizaro. I look at it like who's still going to be on NXT at that point, and I don't believe either of these two will be pulled up. And I think they're both fan-friendly enough that we'll get them on the show and people will pop for them. I think this is a fun match to have. This would be a good match to put on here. And I would put the Sky Pirates over Kairi Sane and Io Shirai. That's where I would have them win their tag team championship. I think you could still keep them with Paige, because I think she's going to work out good as a manager. She's got a good talking skill, and she could easily become the premier manager of the women's division. Now, next up, I hate to put it here, but they always seem to do it anyway. For the Cruiserweight Championship, I have champion Mike Kanellis versus Kalisto. And I know it's kind of hard to see Mike Kanellis as a champion now, but if you would have went back a year ago, it would have been hard to see Tony Nese at the point they were booking him there. And I think Mike Kanellis is the kind of champion that they want, a guy that's more of their prototypical wrestling type, their prototypical style that they like, and I think he's a good fit here. I think he's a good wrestler. The package with him and Maria is good. Kalisto's an excellent wrestler. I think him versus Kalisto would be a great match to put here. I'm going to give it to Mike Kanellis retaining just because I don't think they want to continually have the Cruiserweight Championship changing on the big event. And I think this is, even though Kanellis being the champion, I think this would be basically his coming out party to a much bigger stage than what 205 Live produces. Next up, we're going to go right into the main card, and I'm going to start the main card hot. The Women's Battle Royal, which hopefully by that time next year they change to the China Memorial Battle Royal. I'm going to have Mandy Rose picking up the win there. Again, much like Bray Wyatt, she's a big star, or should be a big star in the division, but I couldn't find a place on the card for her, so I'm putting her here. I think she picks up the win. I think she benefits greatly from winning it. I think it's a perfect spot for her. I think she can use that to her advantage. Now, next up, I had a concept for a match, and again, a lot of this is trying to fit people onto the card, and it's a lot harder than you would think it would be. Because in my initial few runs at the card, I left a lot of people on that you would think would be no-brainers to be on WrestleMania. So I came up with this idea. Next year, instead of doing a superstar shakeup, I have them going back to a traditional draft. So for WrestleMania, they're going to have a 5-on-5 match. The winner between SmackDown and Raw gets to get first pick in the draft when the draft happens 2 weeks from then. So, kind of gives it a little bit of meaning. Again, with the 5-on-5 concept, you get to see people that, you get to fill the card out more with some people. Plus, you get to see some interesting matchups that you wouldn't naturally have being a SmackDown versus Raw match. For Team SmackDown, I have Shane McMahon, Shinsuke Nakamura, Andrade, Ali, and Jinder Mahal. And for Team Raw, I have Cedric Alexander, Braun Strowman, Baron Corbin, Ricochet, and Cesaro. Now, if you notice here, I didn't keep it exactly heel face, because I think it's going to be the best of the best, and I think that's going to be part of the story if I was telling it the story on this. In my opinion, SmackDown would pick up the win with Baron Corbin helping out that team, and then Baron Corbin joining SmackDown at a later date. But that's kind of why I wanted to keep it where you had faces interacting with heels, because there is that wild card possibility in there, and that's something that I think would be interesting and keep the interest in basically what amounts to a match that the fans could give up on easily. Now, coming off of that, after SmackDown picked up that win, I'm going to go to the Raw Tag Team Championship match. And for the most part, as you see here, most of this card is just championship matches. So we're going to go for the Raw Tag Team Championships, the Usos versus the called up at some point Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. I think, again, this is a fantastic match, a great match to show the show, a great wrestling match for those hardcore wrestling fans in attendance. Kind of a dream match. Red Dragon versus the Usos is something that's been bantered about for years. So I think it would be a great match to see. And I think it'd be a great match on this showcase. I think both teams would go out of their way to make this a fantastic match. I'm going to go with the Usos retaining here. I think, again, the Usos seem to be the top team in WWE, and they really need to give them some big-time, huge WrestleMania-type wins to cement their legacy as the best team of this generation, which I think they already have, but to add to it, they're going to add a little bit more. Now, next up, we have a fatal four-way for the Intercontinental Championship. Champion Randy Orton will be defending against Big E, Lars Sullivan, and Aleister Black. And again, as you can see, we're doing these multi-person matches here, and I'm trying not to use that crutch as much as possible, but like I said, you just have to with the size of their roster, and they want to put all these championships on the card. They did it last year, they did it this year, so I think to do that, you have to do a couple of these. In this four-way, I think this is Aleister Black's coming out party. I think he wins, picking up his first championship in the WWE, and probably the first of many, because I believe he's going to go on to be a huge star. I think he's already well into that path to go there. So I think Aleister Black picks up the win there, becoming the new Intercontinental Champion. Then we come off of that to one of the first main title matches, the Universal title. As we've seen, they like to put one of the two big titles early in the card. And I think this is still early enough in the card that this is where they probably fit this in. And for this, it's going to be a three-way dance. Universal Champion Samoa Joe versus Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. And again, this is another match that's made for the wrestling fan. And of course, these are three of the top tier talents on Monday Night Raw, so it's easy to see them fitting into this spot. I think it would be a great place for all three. I'd have Drew McIntyre picking up the win by beating Seth Rollins. Therefore, we see either a Drew McIntyre face turn or a Samoa Joe face turn going forward, and them continuing the feud because Drew McIntyre did not beat Samoa Joe. And we also take off, as good as Seth has been and as great as his matches at WrestleMania have been, we don't want to make it automatic that Seth Rollins wins every WrestleMania. So to me, you give a guy like Drew McIntyre, who's very deserving of this spot, his chance to shine. And I think that's what I would do here. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go into our Smackdown Tag Team Championship. Representing the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. And you see, because we've used Big E earlier, that this would be the team here. The Tag Team Champions for SmackDown versus Kevin Owens and Adam Cole. I think this would be a great spot. I think Adam Cole being pulled up to the main roster, if he's not brought up as part of Undisputed Era, making him an ally to Kevin Owens is going to give him immediate heat. It's also going to establish what his character is without too much backstory. And for those that know the backstory, it's going to play off of their backstory as being partners before and being friends before WWE. So I think it's a good way to do it here. I give the team of Owens and Cole the win, letting, Kofi and Xavier do different things. The New Day is firmly established. They can take losses at any point in their career now, and it does not matter. They're, as a team, as a crew, they're already Hall of Fame worthy. Kofi himself, Hall of Fame worthy, even without the New Day. But I think this is a good way, basically, to help Adam Cole, who at this point will probably be less than 6 months into his main roster career, help show that he's something special. Again, we're giving another guy their first taste of a championship on the show. We had Aleister Black earlier, and we had Drew McIntyre, which not his first championship, but his first run at one of the big titles. So again, we're giving a lot of firsts out on this show. Kind of what they did on the past year's WrestleMania and WrestleMania 35. Now, coming from that, we're going to go into our SmackDown Women's Championship. We're going to have the champion, Charlotte. I know. Charlotte Flair is champion. But we know that's what they like to do. And we're going to have a rematch from WrestleMania 34 versus Asuka. And I think this is the time where Asuka gets her win back. I think Asuka beats Charlotte, wins the championship. We see her going back onto the trajectory she was, where she was the top talent in the women's division, if not the number one of the top 2 or 3. So it's easy to put her into this category here. I don't necessarily separate her from Paige. Like I said before, I think Paige is going to make a fantastic manager role. And if she can build a bit of a stable, have Asuka, have Io Shirai, have Kairi Sane kind of dominating in the women's area, make Paige kind of the female Bobby Heenan type role, where she has a number of champions or a number of women that could go after different championships. That's how I would use her, because I think the more you could put Paige on television, she's a star. Paige is a star, period. And she's going to give that rub off to her talents. Now, whether it be someone who, like Asuka, who we've seen has struggled in promos, or Kairi Sane and Io Shirai, who we haven't had much promo work yet, but with the little we have, they've had the same problem, the language barrier, which I know, to me, it's not that important of a deal, but to the general public and to WWE it is. So I think that that's a great use for someone as popular and as well-speaking as Paige. Now, coming from that, we're going to go into the U.S. title match. We're going to have the champion, The Miz, versus AJ Styles. And we're going to do this as a face versus face match. I think Miz's face turn this time around has been rather good. And I don't see them pulling away from it this quickly, basically within a year. So I think he's going to get a long face run. And I think this will be one of the culminations where either he turns heel here after losing, or he could even continue to go on and maybe go for, Drew McIntyre after this. But I see AJ Styles picking up the win in a face versus face match that stays pretty much by the books. Now, coming from that, one of our few non-championship matches on the card, Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. This is kind of one of those matches where I don't know why it hasn't been made yet. You have to believe that the WWE wants this to happen, that they want to build to this match. And I don't know why it hasn't yet. Maybe they haven't considered Lashley a strong enough contender for Lesnar. Who knows? But to me, this one's a no-brainer. I think it's a hoss fight. I think it's actually something that fans could get behind for both wrestlers who have struggled getting the fans behind them on the WWE level in their runs currently. So I think this would be a great match. I think their skill sets would complement each other. And I think we'd have a great fight here. And I'd pick Lesnar to pick up the win because, of course, Brock Lesnar is going to win. When doesn't he win? Next up, we have for the Raw Women's Championship, Becky Lynch, the champion, who I do think is going to carry it over for the full year, versus Sonya Deville. And a lot of people will be surprised. I almost put this as the main event, but you'll see why I didn't in a moment. And I wanted to do that for a number of reasons. Again, to make another first, to have the first openly gay participant in a main event at WrestleMania, with Sonya being openly lesbian. That was one of my main reasons for thinking that. Of course, Becky Lynch will probably still be mega over and be one of the most over, if not most over, people on the roster. Sonya Deville, I think she's just a push getting behind her from being just as popular, or maybe even eclipsing her, because I love her character. She has an air of believability to her. She moves with a purpose. Her in-ring skill is very good, even at this early of a point in her career. I think she's a top-level talent. And I think this would be a great matchup. The reason I put it here is the star power of the next match basically outpowers this. But I'm going to call it the co-main event like they like to do. I'm going to keep Becky retaining here in a very well thought of, well done match and a well thought through match. I'm going to have Sonya win the Royal Rumble to get here. That's how she gets into this match. And I just see it as a way of Becky winning, but making a star out of Sonya in the process, kind of like Bret Hart and Steve Austin all those years ago. And last but not least, our main event of the evening, I'm going to pick for the WWE Championship, champion Roman Reigns versus John Cena. Now, I know a lot of people are going to laugh at this match, and a lot of people are going to be derivative of that. But realistically, this is a dream match. This is the top guy in the company, Roman Reigns, versus the previous top guy in the company, John Cena. And you could argue either way, whether you like either man or not, whether you think they're great wrestlers or not. They're both very big stars. And they're both guys that are synonymous with being at the top of the card. And I think this is a match that really solidifies Roman's career. I know he's had some really great moments, and I know Cena has as well. But I think this is kind of like the cherry on top of the sundae. When we look back at Roman's career, this is one of the matches that we point to. And I think Roman picks up the win. I think they're actually going to have a very good match. And to me, it's the way to end out the show. Roman beating John Cena. Again, the new guy conquering the old guy. And I think it's a great way to go off the air. And basically, that's my crazy predictions. Most likely, none of this is going to come out right. It is way too early to pick any of this and to know what Vince McMahon thinks 10 to 11 months out. So it's so hard just guessing this. And as you can see, I had difficulty even using all the great talent. There's a lot of great talent in the WWE that's totally not on this card. That totally got left out just because of the logjam there is. And that's a good and bad problem to have. I think a lot of these matches are probable, possible even. But I'd like to see, I'm going to go back and watch this after WrestleMania next year, see how much I actually got right and how much I got wrong and how close I was on some of this. Again, these are way too early predictions that are doomed to be wrong. So basically, I just did this for entertainment and as a way to use my brain as how I would book the stars in WWE for next year's WrestleMania, basically. But with all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this is my predictions for WrestleMania 36.